Hi, welcome. My name is Jay Haft. I am from Beaver Dam, Wisconsin. This is my new mega series called Beaver Dam and the State of Wisconsin, a Corrupt Criminal Enterprise, and subtitle, A True American Horror Story. This will be 20 to 50 episodes. Please watch them in order so you don't miss anything. This is a true story. All episodes are my opinions, but I have all the evidence and will not lie or stretch the truth. I received 300 pages of emails from the Wisconsin DNR through an open records request. These are the worst atrocities against small business owners in the history of America due to the large amount of people affected. For me, I was under threat for around 5.5 years. They never removed the threats. Normally, after a flood, cities try to help the people that are affected. In fact, one of the property owner's lawyers researched and found that this had never happened before. Beaver Dam had a lot of flooding in 2008. My building was downtown on the river and it flooded during this event. In the month of June 2008, Beaver Dam received mass amounts of rain. Mandatory evacuations were performed on the 100 and 200 block of Front Street. And then on June 14th, 2008, 6 days after the flood, FEMA formally declared the disaster via the Federal Registry, and President Obama declared disaster in Wisconsin under the authority of the Robert T. Stafford Relief and Emergency Assistance Act, the Stafford Act. What happened next is unimaginable. You can't make this stuff up. Read these three articles. Okay, this is a press release from the city of Beaver Dam. And I'm going to read this real quick. The city of Beaver Dam is buying flooded businesses. Some owners want to stay, but they don't seem to have a choice. Business owners are against the plan, and to make matters worse, they say the mayor didn't have the courtesy to tell them in person. Instead, they found about it on the radio. Business owner Julia Ronzani was listening to the radio station BEV and couldn't believe what she was hearing. I was in absolute shock, Ronzani said. She learned the city wants to condemn the downtown building that houses her business. Even worse, they would only offer her 65% of her assessed value. I went from shock to hysteria to crying, oh my God, what am I going to do now? And how could they do this without talking to us first? It was an absolute nightmare, Ronzani said. She is not alone. City officials are targeting 16 other businesses in downtown Beaver Dam that sit in the floodplain. Officials want to tear them down and make room for other developments. No way would the mayor like to have his house sold for 65% of the value of his property? No one would. Beaver Dam's mayor said the DNR would help with the bill for buying and raising the buildings. Many of them are still in various states of disrepair caused by June floods. The mayor says, quite honestly, we are putting our hand out to them, offering them something very reasonable in our eyes, Beaver Dam Mayor Tom Kennedy said. The mayor went on to say that he didn't tell the business owners in advance because he didn't have the time. The excuse is not sitting well for some who say they're not going to stand for the city trying to take away their livelihoods. It's pretty much take the 65% or we'll go through condemnation and your building will be unable to be occupied and it'll be worth zero, business owner Michael Furchow says. This is another press release from the city of Beaver Dam. Beaver Dam business is unhappy with city rehab plan. The city of Beaver Dam wants to rebuild after June's massive flooding. Business owners say the plan is costing their livelihoods. City's leaders are targeting several downtown businesses that are in the floodplain. They want to condemn the damaged buildings they're in, and other business owners offered 65% of their assessed value. Business owner Michael Furchow doesn't feel he has much of a choice. He says he feels it's take the 65% or take nothing. Either way, he feels his building will be torn down. This is another city press release in the paper. It says property owner stunned by demolition plan. And then Ronzani went to City Hall to talk to the mayor. She left unsatisfied. First time I heard it was 7 a.m. while I was lying in bed. It was an absolute panic this morning. It was a wreck. The bombshell resonated up and down the 200 block. Owners discovered the city's proposal to acquire and demolish the 17 buildings only through the local media reports. A lot of property owners went through a lot during the flooding, and now it's like they're going to come in and kick us in the butt while we're down. Ball said, "I can go along with the condemnation of the properties." Meanwhile, City Hall Mayor Kennedy defended the city's methodology. Okay, you're going to see on this YouTube video that the city actually applied for a grant before the flood as hazard mitigation, and they would have got this grant as long as they completed the paperwork. They actually sent them a letter of reciprocity that they would finish the paperwork, they would get the grant. Okay, so you come out and threaten the people with condemnation. By law, you then have to do this because it is a law. Laws seem to mean nothing to the city. Condemnation is the legal process for eminent domain. Then around 2 weeks after the flood, city called a meeting held by Beaver Dam Building Inspector John Mosrenier, reading a letter to the property owner stating it was either take 65% of your assessed value or the DNR will order your building down and make you pay for demolition. This, I believe, is blackmail, threats, fear, and ultimatums. Now I'll go through some of the federal law from the Stafford Act, which definitely applies. The Stafford Act was basically designed to protect people affected by a natural disaster from the criminals. In this case, it didn't work. Okay, this is a statute of limitations. Sorry about that. This is a statute of limitations for the Stafford Act. It says the limitation paragraph 1 shall apply unless there is evidence of civil or criminal fraud. Okay, we got to remember that because there's no statute of limitations for federal grant fraud. And it says here, this is another document here. I'm going to take a look at that. Okay. This is fraud in connection with major disaster or emergency benefits. Whoever is circumstance described in subsection of this section knowingly falsifies, conceals, or cover up by any trick, scheme, or device any material or makes any material false, fictitious, or fraudulent statements or representation, or makes or uses any false writing or document knowing the same to contain any material false, fictitious, fraudulent statement or representation. In any matter involving any benefit authorized, transported, transmission, transferred, dispersed, or pay in connection with a major disaster declaration under Section 401 of the Stafford Act, or an emergency declaration under 501 of the Stafford Act, or in connection with any procurement of property or services related to an emergency or major disaster declaration as a private contractor with the United States, in which there is a prime contract with the United States, shall be fined under this title, imprisoned not more than 30 years or both. Okay, these are the penalties on here for the Stafford Act. Misuse of funds. Any person knowingly misapplies the proceeds of a loan or other cash benefit obtained under this act shall be fined an amount equal to 1.5 times the misapplied amount of the proceeds in cash benefit. The civil penalty, and there's civil enforcement. It appears that any person is violated or is about to violate any provision of this act, including any civil penalty imposed under this act. The Attorney General may bring a civil action for such relief as may be appropriate. Such action may be brought in appropriate United States District Court. And then referral to the Attorney General. President shall expeditiously refer to the Attorney General for appropriate action under any evidence developed in the performance of functions under the Act that may warrant consideration for criminal prosecution. Okay, this is another one on the Stafford Act. Duplication of benefits. This is very important because I'm gonna talk about this in a little bit coming forward. General provision: the President, in consultation with the head of each federal agency administrating any program providing financial assistance to persons, business concerns, or other entities suffering losses as a result of a major disaster or emergency shall ensure that no such person, business concern, or entity will receive such assistance with respect to any part of such loss as to which he has received final assistance under any, notice I say any other program or form of insurance or any other source. It's very important. Okay, this is the recovery of the assistance money here. Any person who intentionally causes a condition for which federal assistance is provided under this act or under any other federal law as a result of a declaration of a major disaster or emergency under this act shall be liable to the United States for the reasonable costs occurred by the United States in responding to such a disaster or emergency to the extent that such costs are attributed to the intentional act or omission of such person which caused such condition. Okay, I'm going to put this up now. This is the contact information for the people that I want you to call. I'm asking for your help, and I appreciate, what you can do for me and the other property owners. Okay. At the city's meeting with the building inspector, they finally determined that there was 11 buildings that were in the floodway and 6 in the floodplain. So they decided that they were really only concerned about the 11 buildings mainly. Even though the other 6 people had their lives turned upside down for a couple weeks. All the people affected by this, all the families, the children, grand family, employees, and more. Okay. I'm about to play a video of the mayor, Tom Kennedy, on YouTube. This is the man who did everything to ruin my life and steal everything I worked for my whole life. During COVID, many businesses were closed for months. Imagine being closed for years. I lost everything. Imagine, then because of the relentless attack on my character, everyone was convinced it was me that was the bad person. I lost friends, went to work for 2 years and basically broke even. The effects on me, I thought I had PTSD because of the long-term effects on my character and business. But I knew the law. I had no idea a city and state could work to ruin this many people. We as a country cannot allow this by letting them get away with this. This only emboldens them to do almost anything, which this kind of qualifies as. I'm asking for your help and not your money. Please call the 3 people on the paper I posted earlier, which I'll post again. President Joe Biden, the famous secretary. Please tell them to investigate this. I recommend a federal grand jury investigation. Please help any way you can. Share on social media. And now I'm going to display a grant form here, which I actually displayed earlier. I'll do it again. Because the mayor says in this video that they didn't apply for a grant. I'm not the best at this, you can see that, but I'm going to hopefully get better because I'm going to have a lot of episodes. This is a picture of that grant form again. Okay. Okay, this is off a formal complaint that I gave to HUD, and they investigated this, and it's about 13 pages, which I will go through later. This was, and I want to thank Sean Donovan, the head of HUD. He was the secretary of HUD at the time. He came out here, and these are a couple things I want to read off here. Shortly thereafter, they basically investigated this whole thing, and they ruled in favor of me. Shortly thereafter, the state was awarded Supplement HUD, this CBDG disaster grant funding through the state's Department of Commerce. And that's very important, it's disaster grant funding. In June 2009, the state awarded Beaver Dam a grant in amount of $3 million $715,191. As part of this award, funding was to be used for acquisition of parcels along the river, demolition, and relocation, including the cost to prepare a relocation plan for residential and business occupants displaced by the flood. Inclusive of these options, the city allowed to reoccupy after the flood. As a part of the funding, the state agreed to allow 10 of the buildings damaged by the flood, leaving J. House building out of the plan to acquire with federal funds because he refused under the voluntary acquisition program the city had undertaken. Now this is where I start to have problems with HUD. Okay, I'm in this relocation plan. I'm going to show you that. They received funding for my building. And the amazing thing is, the plan was $2.7 million, so how did they get $3.715 million? Yeah, where did the extra million come from? Did they just give it away? I'll go into that more and explain that to you later, but it says the city's voluntary acquisition program. There was no voluntary program. These people are under threat from the DNR. It's amazing how HUD did this, because I sent them all this information. I find it hard to believe that they could. And then in December 2009, a contract was executed between Beaver Dam and the state of Wisconsin for CDBG Emergency Assistance Program, EAP. In September of 2010, the city was awarded an additional $260,000 to acquire my property. To date, the city has not acquired this property from the owner. Mr. Hape refused to sell because his belief the city was not applying the Uniform Relocation Act right. It's not a belief, it's the truth. There's a legal process you have to go through. You have to have the relocation plan done before you make an offer. I'll go through the addendum a little later. They made them waive their relocation, which you can't do. Okay. This here is a relocation feasibility sheet here, okay? This tells what all the property owners, they got for their property, okay? I'm 6C. Okay. They don't have the occupancy right on here. They have the square foot right. They had annual gross income of $25,000. No. More like 75. Estimated value of the property. They're saying that is the appraised value. I mean the what do you want to call it? Assessed value. Range of sale comparisons. Most comparable units. They got $190,000 for my building. You'll see in this video that he said I wanted $190,000. Well, that's what they got. Okay. Moving costs $15,000. Owner replacement $50,000. Closing and incidental cost payments and reestablishment costs. So if you add this all up, it's $260,000. Oh, that's amazing, because that's how much the DNR gave them for my property. But a lot of these businesses in here to this date have never received their funding. Okay. I'm going to go through this whole relocation plan and explain everything to you later. But what's interesting about it is this money was supposed to be allocated within 90 days. 90 days. And 14 years later, you know, they said I wasn't in the relocation plan. Properties. There's my building. I'm in the relocation plan. Displaced persons identification. Oh, geez. I'm in there. The Fountain Inn too. I am displaced. And then it says in here, parcel 8C, 203 Front Street, is occupied by Jay's. Property owner is not interested in this time in offering his property for sale, and the city will not pursue it. Yeah. The owner is unsure if he will establish himself at another location. The property has been notified by the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources that they intend to seek removal of this building because of its location within the Beaver Dam River. Yeah. It's all fraud, because you can't order someone's building down. You can't. It's against the law. Okay, so this is the total of the relocation plan. It says right here, $2.7 million. Well, they said that they got 3.7. Don't tell me HUD added an extra $1 million to this. You know, they just gave it to the city. And you'll see where that money went. Down the road. Okay, let's see. Now, in this video, twice at the time of the mayor's lies. Now show documents from a relocation plan. You want episodes moving forward. All this crap detailed. Several conspiracies, blackmail, federal grant fraud. Many laws broke and required. Legal procedures involving HUD, the state of Beaver Dam, the city of Beaver Dam, the Commerce Department, the Wisconsin DNR, WIDA, the Department of Administration. And that's it, folks. This is episode 1. Make sure you watch episode 2 and watch them in order. And thank you. Appreciate it.